The something that you said earlier is very true about the moralizing of everything. And
Right.
I don't know, you do know this, whether you've put word to it or not. People are moralizing every single thing. Even words are moralized, such that anytime you talk about a particular thing, you can no longer just convey a descriptive fact about something. That is impossible.
Right.
You're also conveying your normative feelings about it as well.
Right. It has
Like,
to be evaluative
it
too, right?
always, yeah. And I always tell people this because I get invited sometimes to talk to colleges or whatever. One of the biggest pieces of advice I had to give when I'm talking to people is like, don't ever confuse the morality of a goal with the morality of a process, right? So when we're talking about like homelessness,
100%.
eliminating
100%.
homelessness, that's a morally good thing. You should want to eliminate homelessness. That's really good. Nobody will argue with you there. But as soon as you start saying things like rent control, that's a morally good position. Well, hold on. No, it's not. That's a process. And insofar as it serves the end, it could be good, but it could also not be good. But people will start to get so tied into these processes that even when they don't work, or even when you can show that they don't work to serve the end, you're called out because now it seems like you disagree with the moral statement at the end rather than just the description of the system. Affirmative action is another really good one of this. I think racial justice in the United States is really important. And I think that there are steps that we can take to ameliorate like the differences in the races and educational attainment. Affirmative action doesn't seem like it's worked in a lot of different areas. There's a lot of issues with it. And the way that it gets reported is deceptive sometimes, right? I think in the UC schools, they would say, we tried affirmative action. We got 2x the enrollment of black students. And it's like, okay, but the graduation rate remained the same on an absolute value, but on the per capita thing, it actually reduced horribly. So you're getting people in school and it's not working. They're just failing out because they're not qualified for it. But as soon as you attack the concept of affirmative action in people's minds, you're attacking the concept of racial equity and racial justice. Like, well, hold on, no, I'm not. And you see this play out with every single issue, where if you try to have a conversation about a particular policy or a particular process, people are already at the end of the road where the moral claim is. And if you disagree with it any step of the way, you must disagree with the moral claim at the end.
Yeah,
And it's-
100%. And so what I found the way to deal with that is to stick to the process, is to stick to the evaluation of the process. So this is where the conversation gets incredibly complicated. So the problem now that we have with this is we have a bunch of people running around who are telling us that the ways that we, either they're telling us that all processes are relative or that they're all equal, which by definition, they can't be both relative and equal. The other thing is, I found that if you focus on the process, so if you look at it as a syllogism, premise, conclusion, what we often find is that people run around and criticize other conclusions that people have based upon their own moral impulses. But we can get a lot farther if we talk about, is it valid? In other words, does the premise like affirmative action or rent control or what have you, is it a valid syllogism to say, if you do this and if you do this, it will yield this? And if it is, then, in other words, there are ways to think about or to conceptualize the problem that don't deal with conclusions, but just deal with processes. Because the fact of the matter is, not all processes are equal. I mean, in fact, by definition, they can't be.
Yeah.
They can't be because so.
Even
So
trying to
how do
walk
we-
somebody through like that, even that part can be very challenging. Like, well, let's talk. Like, we're not even going to talk about the soundness of your argument. Let's just see syllogistically if it's valid. Does it at least like the conclusion
Right.
follow, assuming everything else is true? And sometimes even at that point, you're already like in another universe, depending on who you're talking to.
Right,
for-
and
yeah.
and so I find, and this is maybe it's a little counterintuitive, but talking about whether something is true, I mean, ultimately that's of importance, but what's more important is that how do you know that it's true? That's why your epistemology is always more important than your metaphysics or anything else. Like, what is the process that you arrived at, and are you willing to change your mind? So that's the attitude, right?
Yeah.
And-
All right. Bye. Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.